Hello and welcome. You're watching UATV News with me, MAKSYM. Let's start with the latest developments in Ukraine. Aggression of the Russian Federation is aimed at hindering the European integration of Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia. President of Ukraine said this during the Batumi International Conference held in Georgia. Volodymyr Zelensky pays a walk-in visit there. The head of state noted these three countries are united not only by aspirations but also by the price they had to pay for them, because they state are well aware of annexation, occupation and war. Therefore, Volodymyr Zelensky believes that the EU should demonstrate a clear vision of relations with its closest partners, Ukraine, Georgia and Moldova, at the December summit of the Eastern Partnership. He added that Ukraine will support the Eastern Partnership initiative as much as it will contribute to the realization of our European aspirations.
Lack of the strategic vision on the part of the European Union of the goals of the Eastern Partnership makes this format not that substantive, half alive, so to say. We do not need a summit for the sake of a summit. Our people are dying, there is war on our land. We need a political content and a geopolitical vision of the future of this initiative. Otherwise, to be honest, the expediency of this in general is not clear. The ongoing aggression of the Russian Federation, hybrid attacks and the occupation of sovereign territories are aimed at significantly slowing down our movement towards this integration. That is why moving forward and the EU's support are crucial to us.
In Georgia, Volodymyr Zelensky has also got acquainted with the security situation on the border with occupied Abkhazia and walked across the Ingur Bridge, which is currently the only entry-exit checkpoint in the region. The operation of the checkpoint was limited due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as a result of which local residents experienced significant difficulties. Besides, the self-proclaimed authorities of the occupied Abkhazia denied the EU monitoring mission entry into the territory under their control. The reform of the Ukroboronprom state defense concern will bring the defense industry of Ukraine closer to the principles the NATO countries adhere to. This was announced by Gordon Skip-Davis, NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary General for Defense Investment. According to him, the reform will help improve the financial stability of the enterprise and strengthen its positions in the market. It will also attract potential investors.
Has Ukraine become closer to NATO? Ukraine is doing right things, namely everything what is expected of it. Reforms are on the way. How radical they are and how intense, it depends on the nation, on the country, but they are carried out. We will support you when you need it. You meet the basic requirements in order to take the next step. Now we need the bylaws and one more step forward by Ukraine. After the reformation, we will assist you to strengthen this effort.
Every day, Ukraine receives confirmation from international partners about their participation in the Crimean Platform Summit. This was stated by First Deputy Foreign Minister Amina Japarova. Recently, the diplomats of Ukraine and Poland discussed the visit of President Andrzej Duda, while the Estonian parliament issued a statement in support of the creation of the Crimean Platform. The documents read that the initiative will become an opportunity for the occupation of Crimea. The first Crimean Platform Summit will be held in Kyiv on August 23rd. Our partners are represented at the highest level, either presidents, prime minister or heads of parliaments or foreign ministers who will come to Kyiv. Accordingly, a Crimean declaration will be signed. Considering the results of this summit, it will actually record the crimes of the Russian Federation that we are following today. Ukraine lost $135 billion because of the occupation of Crimea by Russia. This data was provided by the Center for Economic Strategy. My colleagues will also tell you about the losses of Ukraine and ordinary Ukrainians, as the occupying authorities of the peninsula are taking away their homes and land plots. See the story.
Due to the occupation of the Crimean Peninsula, Ukrainians have lost almost 1 million apartments and businesses, worth more than $18 billion. The losses of Ukraine in general are many times greater. The state has lost significant assets of its enterprises. First of all, it is Chornomor Naftogaz oil refinery, several other enterprises, assets of Ukrainian enterprises that were based on the peninsula, including seaports, and part of the Ukroboronprom's energy supply network. According to preliminary estimates, Ukraine has lost $135 billion since 2014. Some Ukrainians, as well as state and private companies, apply to international courts to oblige the Russian Federation to pay the corresponding sums or ask to seize the assets of those involved in the occupation.
There are losses in the context of protecting the land rights of our citizens. Last year, the President of the Russian Federation signed another legal decree through which the seizure of land plots of the so-called foreign citizens began en masse this year. At least 10,000 citizens of Ukraine who have property in the occupied territory actually fall under this definition. And of course, Ukraine is developing a policy to document these seizures to appeal to international courts.
Experts say that $135 billion is the minimum estimate of Ukraine's economic losses after the occupation of Crimea. But the main loss for the state is the people and the peninsula. In 2014, as a result of the Russian invasion, Ukraine lost 4.5% of its territory. Reported by Vadim Kromer and Vlada Tsurkan, UATV News.
On July 17, 2014, in the skies over the Ukrainian Torres, the illegal armed groups controlled by the Kremlin shot down a passenger Boeing flight MH17 with a Russian Buk missile system. On the 7th anniversary of the tragedy, Ukraine, Austria, Belgium, Malaysia and the Netherlands made a statement demanding to finally identify those responsible for the deaths of 298 passengers. At what stage is the investigation and when the verdicts of the guilty will be announced, our journalists found out.
The catastrophe claimed 298 lives. The passengers and crew members of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 shot down in the sky over the territory of Donetsk region not controlled by Ukraine, where citizens of 17 countries, all of them died. This tragedy attracted the attention of the whole world to the events in Donbass, as well as to the role of Russia in this conflict. In turn, from the very beginning, the Kremlin tried to evade its responsibility, offering more and more new versions of the events.
На начальном этапе.
Initially, there was a version about a plane, then about a Ukrainian rocket. The Russian Federation tried initially to create a situation that would trigger a political decision before the end of the investigation. Moreover, the political decision is not in favor of Ukraine. People who, in one way or another, were associated with that Buk missile system either died suddenly or became accident victims or something else. Well, it's life, you know. There are practically no living witnesses left in the Russian Federation. The international investigation team established that the plane was shot down by a missile from a Buk anti-aircraft missile system belonging to the 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces, deployed near Kursk. The conclusions were drawn on the basis of studies of photographs and videos, analysis of satellite images and intercepted conversations of the militants. MH17 case is being heard at the District Court of The Hague. The presiding judge said that the document is 65,000 pages long. A key phase, consideration of the case on the merits, started on June the 7th. Now 4 people are among the accused, 3 citizens of Russia and 1 citizen of Ukraine.
Together with partners from the International Joint Investigation Team, we are continuing an investigation aimed at identifying others involved in this crime, including those who launched the missile and gave the appropriate orders.
On the 7th anniversary of the tragedy, the foreign ministers of Ukraine, Australia, Belgium, Malaysia and the Netherlands issued a statement in which they emphasized the necessity to establish the truth in this matter. While nothing can bring back those who lost their lives or diminish the anguish and grief suffered by the family members, it is imperative that we remain steadfast in our commitment to pursuing truth, justice and accountability. We acknowledge the cooperation of our respective investigative agencies and reiterate our full support for their efforts to establish the truth of what happened. We also have full confidence in the independent, open and impartial criminal proceedings against the alleged perpetrators. Experts believe that it is important for Ukraine that the court establish not only the guilt of individuals, but also the responsibility of Russia as a state. The optimistic option is proving of a chain of political decisions, and in this case, Russia will at least be forced to at least agree to compensation for the victims. In this case, it will be possible to use this case, including a political confrontation with Russia, if at that time it continues its aggressive policy. According to lawyers, a court decision can only be expected in some 4 or 5 years. Reported by Vadim Kromer and Yulia Krychkova, UATV News.
The decline in the COVID-19 incidence rate in Ukraine is traditional after the weekends. Over the past day, 182 cases of the disease have been identified in the country. 187 Ukrainians recovered. The majority of all new cases are in Kiev. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health is preparing for the next wave of a pandemic, likely to be caused by the Delta strain. There are now 4 cases of infection with this variant of coronavirus in the country.
A month or two and the Delta strain will replace other strains. The priority for today is preparation. We have to vaccinate as many Ukrainians as possible. Besides, we are also preparing the oxygen supply systems. $25 million were allocated to purchase oxygen concentrators. We have additionally negotiated with all oxygen suppliers. They produced enough oxygen and filled all possible reservoirs.
An urban park instead of a waste lot. The 4th modern sports ground has been opened in eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. It is already considered the biggest in terms of area and the amount of fitness equipment. Our correspondents will tell you the details.
24-year-old MAKSYM once used to be a gymnast. 7 years ago, he decided to go in for street workout. The young man says he's been striving to find a relevant sports ground for a long time. Earlier, when I just started my exercises, there were no sports grounds, only some chin-up bars and parallel bars in the yards, and it was fine. But then the city started supporting this kind of sports. Mass events were organized. People started doing exercises on pull-up bars. The city government saw this and started building sports grounds. Renovation of the abandoned playground for kids took almost half a year. The area of 1.5 hectares turned into a unique space. One can ride skateboards and roller skates there, play football and basketball, or master parkour skills. The urban park is already the 4th and the biggest in Kharkiv, and it quickly became the most popular. At first, we've expected some 100 people to come. It could seem like a joke, but now we see lots of visitors here. Generally speaking, some 15–20,000 kids, young men and women, senior citizens exercise here daily. The sports ground has become the mainstream, so to say, for residents of our city. Not only youth became interested in the urban park. Alina came here with her friend. She says earlier they could only dream of such places.
One can do a lot of things here. The times have changed indeed. When we were kids, there was nothing like this. We saw and knew nothing about such sports, but now we're happy that kids have such opportunities. Urban parks and the city of Kharkiv, it's a wonderful and unique story. It's an example for the entire Ukraine. We plan to build a big urban park on the territory of the Expo Center of Ukraine in Kiev. It will resemble the one in Kharkiv. It's wonderful that such spaces, urban spaces, are developing in residential areas. They provide young people with an opportunity to lead a healthy lifestyle.
The 5th Kharkiv urban park is planned to be built already in 2022. They say it will be the largest in Ukraine. Reported by Vadim Kramer and Natalia Bilokudra, UATV News.
Babi Yar context documentary by Serhyi Loznytsia won a special prize at the Cannes Film Festival. The movie is based on the materials from archives of several countries and private collections. Even historians of the Holocaust saw some of the newsreels used in the film for the first time. The Golden Eye Award is a prestigious award for the best documentary presented at the Film Forum. In addition to the status of a prize winner, the winner receives a monetary award of €5,000. That's all for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. More updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter pages.